Viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Alright. I wanna cruise with you, baby, all night long. I wanna cruise with you, baby, till dawn. Will you cruise with me, baby? I tried to record this video, or at least start recording this video last night, and when I went back to look at what I had, I was not happy. I felt like I rushed to get through this story. It's not even a story, this testimony. It's a good way to put it. I felt like I rushed it, and it's something that doesn't deserve to be rushed. No detail deserves to be left out because it's important. So let me do my intro. What's up, Craybays? It's your girl Kyra Danielle, and I'm back here with another video. This is the first video that I'm recording on my brand new camera that I finally got for myself, and I'm so happy about. I'm still working out lighting and situations like that. First, let me apologize for being gone for as long as I've been gone. It's been 2 months since I last uploaded anything. If you follow me on social media, then you know why I've been gone. It's been a really rough, what's today, the 29th, 28th? It's been a really rough month. You see the title of the video, so you know what I'm about to talk about. My grandmother passed away from COVID-19 on July 19th, 2020 at 1:36 in the morning. So I'm going to get into it. I'm going to bring my mom in eventually to just talk about things that we learned throughout her whole journey with it. What I'm doing right now is just basically giving y'all the background information. So, whew, let's get into it. For starters, I would like to say thank you to everybody who has prayed, sent cards, virtual hugs, condolences, love to my family and I during this time. It's not easy. It's far from easy. Everybody knows that my grandma was my best friend. So to have her taken from me so suddenly it's a lot to deal with. I'm very angry. I get really sad, but talking about it does help. And that's why I didn't want to prolong this video anymore, because talking does help. So no, I'm not being forced to do this. I wanted to do this. It just helps to talk. I just don't have much to do to get my mind off of stuff. So talking about it does help me. But anyways, let's get into this. So June 29th, me and my grandma, we worked together. We were on the way to work, and she was coughing, and she's always had this little like a clearing her throat kind of cough, but this was a different type of cough, and it almost sounded like she was wheezing a little bit, like she was having a hard time breathing some. I was worried, so I looked at her and I was like, okay, grandma, like, are you okay? She was like, she was fine. I was like, I don't believe you, but okay. So I texted my mom and I was like, Mom, I'm worried about grandma. Something isn't right. Her breathing just sounds a little funny. So we went to work, and I ate breakfast. She didn't get breakfast. She said she wasn't hungry. I was like, okay, that's strange. That was the first thing that was strange to me, was that she didn't want breakfast. So I was like, okay, whatever. Maybe she's not hungry. So we went to work. I ate breakfast, and you know, during the day, everything, she seemed fine. We were going, she comes back and forth to my desk. I would go back and forth to her desk. So we was going back and forth to each other's desk. I went down with her to the mail room to get her mail. The day just seemed to be normal. So it was getting close to lunchtime, and we DoorDash for lunch majority of the time. I was like, Grandma, what do you want today? And she was like, what do you want? I was like, I want Panda. She was like, okay, I'll take Panda. So we ordered Panda Express, and we get the same thing every time we order Panda Express. We get teriyaki chicken. So we ordered, got our food. I went to my desk to eat. She went to her desk to eat. So after lunch every day, we either text each other and be like, how was your food? Or go to each other's desk and, you know, ask how was your food. This particular day, since I wanted to check on her to see how she did for lunch, I went to her desk and I asked her how her food was. And when I got over there, before I could even ask, I saw that she hadn't touched her food. I was like, Grandma, why you didn't eat? She was like, the chicken doesn't taste right. I was like, that's weird because my food tasted fine. She was like, I'm just not hungry. I was like, Grandma, you didn't eat breakfast. You said you were going to eat some snacks for your breakfast. You didn't eat those. You haven't eaten your lunch. Like, what's wrong? She was like, I'm just not hungry. And I was like, Grandma, you just don't look like, you look like something is wrong with you. And she was like, I'm just tired, all of this. And she was pointing to her computer monitor, basically saying all of the workload that she was getting, because with this pandemic going on, unemployment has been going crazy. She just kept saying all this work is making her tired. Texted my mom again. I was like, Ma, something isn't right with Grandma. She doesn't get sick. She really does not get sick like that. We left work, we went home. I came home and took a nap. She went in her room and took a nap. And when I woke up from my nap, I went downstairs to eat dinner. So when I went to eat dinner, I noticed that she hadn't been down to eat anything. So I was like, Grandma, you haven't ate dinner? Like, what's wrong? She was like, I'm not hungry. Okay, something ain't right. So I told my mom, I was like, Mom, Grandma still hasn't eaten. Can you go to CVS and get a thermometer so we could just check her temperature? Because at this point, she's just displaying too many signs. She keeps thinking it's a cold, but at this point, you're displaying signs of COVID. So my mom went to CVS, she got a thermometer, and she came back home and she checked my grandma's temperature. And I was like, look, Grandma, if it's a fever, like, you're going to the emergency room because we need to make sure, you know, whatever this is, you can get treated for it. Took her temperature, it was 101.9. I was like, that's it, going to the hospital so you can get tested. So we took her to the emergency room, and this was close to like midnight. So they wouldn't let us in, of course, because she had a fever. They did the test. They ran a whole bunch of other tests on her because my grandmother is diabetic. My grandmother was diabetic. She had chronic kidney disease and she had high blood pressure, and she was 64 years old. So all of that right there is just a bad combination for this virus. Maybe 1 or 2-ish, we told her to FaceTime us when the doctor came in, and the doctor was like, her test that came back and she was positive for COVID. I was upset instantly because since the beginning of this thing, me and my mom and my entire family had just been big on keeping my grandma away from the public. So like not letting her go into stores, and we would go to the store for her. The only places that she would go is work and home because she couldn't miss work. She couldn't miss work. She didn't have that luxury to work from home. She was an essential employee, going to work every single day, risking her life to process unemployment claims every day, faithfully. Never missed a day. Never missed a day. Even if she had a doctor's appointment, she would make up her time. She never missed a day. So I was beating myself up because I just felt like we didn't protect her enough. But honestly, there was nothing more that we could have done. All she did was go to work and home. That's it. We really did not let her go into the store. And if she went, I was with her. She had on her mask for people near us, because all she would do was go to the pharmacy to get her insulin. She got diagnosed. We came home. They gave her cough syrup because at the time her symptoms were fairly mild. She just had the fever and she just had a cough. So they gave her cough syrup. We went and got the cough syrup filled. When we came home, she finally had an appetite. So she ate, took her some cough syrup, went to bed. We took care of her. We would take turns cleaning the bathroom, because me and my grandma and my little brother, we share a bathroom. So I would take turns with my mom cleaning the bathroom after each time she would use it, because you have to disinfect, you know, to keep everybody else from getting it. She was in self-isolation, of course. We would take turns checking her temperature, take turns bringing her food, take turns bringing her water, you know, to keep her hydrated, making sure that she would sit up, get out of her bed and sit in a chair, and letting some air get in her room, stuff like that. Just stuff, you know, when people have a virus. So Thursday comes, Thursday, July 2nd comes. My grandma did not have much of an appetite. So that started to worry me, because I was like, okay, why is her appetite going again? So Friday comes, Friday, July 3rd, and she checks her blood sugar every morning. So she checked her blood sugar, and it was 399, which is high enough. Her blood sugar is supposed to be between like 80 and 120 first thing in the morning, because she hadn't eaten anything. I was like, Grandma, this something ain't right. So I was like, Mom, Grandma's sugar is $3.99. My mom called my grandma's nurse at her doctor's office, and the nurse was like, she could check it again in an hour. If it hasn't gone down, she has to go to the emergency room, which was okay, y'all. So I'm back. I don't necessarily know where I left off last in this, but as I said, I was gonna get my mom in here so we could just talk about everything. We took her to the emergency room on July 3rd because her sugar spiked up to a point where we had no control to get it down. When we took her, we figured she would stay overnight because we've taken her to the hospital before for her sugar. So we took her and we was like, okay, they're gonna treat her for her sugar and we'll come back and get her on the 4th of July. So 4th of July came and we talked to her, and they basically said that they weren't letting her out because her O2 was low, her SATs. Basically what SAT is when you go to the doctors and they check your vitals, when they put that little thing on your finger, that's testing where the saturation of your oxygen is. And it's supposed to be at what, like 92 or like above 90? All the time I go, mine is at like 198. It's not supposed to be lower than 90. That's not good. And hers was dropping low. So that let us know that she was winded. And that meant that the virus was like taking a toll on her lungs. But we had no way of knowing that because when she was here, it's not like, I mean, you have a virus, you don't go around and run laps, or like, you're just not very active. So she was in bed. I mean, when you're sick, you're in bed. So we had no way of knowing that. So what basically happened on the 5th? I'm trying to go like in a day-by-day order before we just skip right to the
Saturday. Her SATs, they weren't bad, but it was to the point because she was only on 2 liters of oxygen at the time. Then that Sunday, I think it was dropping some. Like the more she moved around, of course her oxygen levels would drop, but she was still getting up out the bed. Her oxygen levels would drop, so that Sunday they did increased her oxygen.
So I would say from that Sunday to that Monday, might I add, every time we would talk to a doctor or a nurse, she was taking notes, and I would record like voice memos on my phone.
I would put them on speaker
so we could.
She would record.
Yeah, so we could hear, you know, because medical terms we don't understand that.
One of my really good friends, because she is a nurse.
Yeah.
So she was able to, between my friend and my aunt, they were able to break things down to us in a way that we can understand. And everything the doctors were saying made a lot of sense, because with the pre-existing conditions my mom had, all of that, the virus pretty much attacked everything, and it just kind of sped up the process, I guess.
So between like that Sunday of the 5th and that Monday of the 6th, she was stable. Her O2 was, she was on oxygen, but she wasn't on a huge amount of oxygen. So they were saying that she could potentially come home by that Tuesday. So he was like, okay, 3 days, no big deal. We were expecting her to come home that Tuesday. Now that Tuesday, we got a phone call. Was that the call that he had made? Basically saying that like the vent would be a rescue therapy?
Yeah, they were talking about her getting the plasma treatment.
You can go get it.
Which the plasma helps treat the virus itself, but she had effects from what the virus was doing. I'll be back. I'm going to get my notebook.
Plasma, I'm going to explain what the plasma is. So plasma comes from people who have already survived coronavirus. It's their antibodies, and they use other people's antibodies to the virus to treat people with the virus. So me, for instance, I had it. I'm sure I've built up antibodies, so I am going to donate my antibodies so that my plasma could be used to treat someone else who, you know, might be sick with the virus. July 6th is when I started feeling sick. I just had lost my taste and my smell, so I went and got tested on July 8th, but yes, we'll get to that. Mind you, they had been putting her, like they had been treating her with, at that point, weren't they treating her with a diuretic?
Yeah, I was just, that's my note. They was giving her a dose of the diuretic to see if they could get the fluid off. Diuretic helps her to urinate, to get the fluid off. She wasn't having trouble breathing. And the way my friend was explaining, because my mom wasn't having problems breathing, But she was saying you can breathe, because you can breathe doesn't mean it's quality breaths. It's like she's breathing, but there were pockets in her lungs and wasn't getting all of the O2.
She wasn't getting a quality amount of oxygen needed to keep her O2 levels at a sufficient rate.
Right.
7th is when the doctor called and said that isn't that when they said they had upped her? So July 7th was when the doctor basically called and was like, he had talked to my grandma about a ventilator and that being like a last resort, like a rescue therapy, because her oxygen levels had increased dramatically. Like I'm talking about, she went from 2 liters of oxygen on July 4th to like 30 to 40 liters on the 7th, just because her body wasn't sustaining the O2 levels that they would like. So they had talk about the vent, but of course our faith, we prayed against that, we rebuked it. The 8th, you know, I was just sad, and on top of the fact that I was starting to get scared that I had it, even though I really strongly believed I had a sinus infection. So the 8th, I went and got tested again, and it was funny because I went and got tested, same hospital she was at, and then all of a sudden she FaceTimed my mom. So I was like, yo, like, does she know I'm here? She never knew that I had got sick. I didn't want to tell her because I just knew that would have stressed her out, and she probably would have started feeling bad, even though it was nowhere near her fault. The 8th was the last time that we both actually talked to her, heard her voice, heard her say she loved us,
right.
Saw her as herself. That day she was about the same. It was like that Tuesday to that Thursday, she was about the same, right?
They were saying that they was able to decrease her.
They said that they had came down on her oxygen.
They was able to come down on her oxygen because she was at 50 something. She was at 50 something liters. They were able to come down on it on the 10th.
Mind you, she was still on, I don't know if y'all know how like oxygen stuff works. So she was still on the little like nasal tubes that you would see if you saw somebody walking around with a can of oxygen. She was still on that.
And they was even telling us this particular day, you know, that she may need therapy, which was fine. I was fine with her having to go through therapy and stuff like that, long as she was at home. So it seemed like things were going in the right direction. And then that Saturday,
well, the 10th, she wasn't really eating much.
Right.
They were giving her Ensure and orange juice. I guess it just took a lot out of her to turn around and eat and stuff like that. It took a lot out of her to do anything except sit there, literally. So that Saturday,
yeah, she ended up getting a high flow oxygen
with a BiPAP at night.
Yeah, with a BiPAP.
Which is
what she needed more support with the oxygen.
They wanted more of. They said they described her as a mouth breather, meaning she was breathing in and out through her mouth versus her nose. So I think that was their telltale sign of she was struggling some. So that's why they put her on the high flow, to get more O2 to come in, you know, so her sats will go up. It was literally like at night that things seemed to just go wrong.
Had to bag her, and what they mean bag her is like CPR, but they had to put a bag in her mouth because again, she was positive for COVID. So they had to put a bag in her mouth and administer CPR.
So that Sunday, July 12th at like 9 something, they sedated her and they went on and put her on the ventilator, which, like, look how fast that happened. Just that Tuesday before, they said it was a last resort, and then that Sunday, here we are.
Because the doctor even said he was hoping that was just a conversation he was having with me. And then
really
with her
was
kidneys, they had to end up giving her dialysis like right after she was put on the vent, because again the fluid wasn't coming off, so they was doing dialysis around the clock. They
were worried about her kidney function, which my grandmother, I think I already said this, she had chronic kidney disease. So, and she was at about stage 2 with that, stage 2 or 3, which was like intermediate. Like her kidneys weren't the absolute worst, but they weren't the best either. So they were really worried about her kidney function because that seemed to be increasing some, and they were worried.
They didn't want her to have kidney failure either.
Right. So then that Monday was when I found out I had COVID and I was put into quarantine. So on top of You know, I was trying to be there for my mom because I understand how stressful this was going on. Now we literally have to separate from each other until I can come out of self-isolation, because I had to stay in my room. I didn't want anybody else in our house to get sick. Just having those phone calls were very, very, like, a lot of anxiety came with that, because you just never knew what was going to be said during the call, or when she would call, my anxiety would skyrocket, because I'm like, are they going to tell us she's not doing amazing? So we would do those calls, and it was like seeming that she was doing small improvements from like the 13th up until, it was like the 14th or 15th they called. And because when she first went on the vent, she had the tube that went down her throat. They said that that wasn't doing what it needed to do, and she ended up getting a small air pocket in between her chest wall and her lung, which caused pneumothorax. And basically her lung was starting to collapse, so they wanted to put in a chest tube to see if they could help that air escape.
Yeah, so they could help it escape. They did x-rays every day.
Every day.
But there wasn't really a lot of change in the x-ray.
Like her body was just really, really inflamed from the virus.
She had a lot of inflammation. So, you know, she's on dialysis, she's on the vent, she has the chest tube. No major changes even during that week. That Friday, which was the 17th, they let me go see her. Of course, I couldn't go in the room. I had to stand in the hallway. They let me go see her, and they had told me that she wasn't making a lot of urine the night before. That was the hardest thing, having to stand outside my mom's room. You know, she's out of it. I feel like she knew I was there. I prayed, and I feel like she knew I was there. When the nurses will open the door, I will yell, "I love you, Mom. I love you, Mom," because I'm just hoping she heard my voice, because even though she was so sedated and on the vent, sometimes that subconscious, she might could still hear me. And I did FaceTime Kyra while I was there so she could see her. And I prayed. I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And, you know, I talked to the doctor, and he said he just wanted to make sure that everything that they were doing was not against what my mother would want, and it wasn't. Because she knew at the end of the day, I was going to make the best decisions for her. And she's strong and she's a fighter. So, but part of me, the whole ride there, I had a lot of anxiety, because I'm like, why now they let me come see her? You know, is something wrong? They're not telling me. But then I was like, you know what? The devil trying to play with me. You know, I'm not going to think that. It's a blessing that I'm able to go see her.
So of course I couldn't go with her, not only because they only were letting one person, but I was COVID positive, so I couldn't go. So that Saturday, because they told me that after 3 days of feeling no symptoms, which my only symptoms were loss of taste and smell, so bad, literally the day after I found out I was positive, my taste and smell came back. So I just went my 72 hours, making sure I could still taste and smell everything. And that Saturday I went to get retested. So while we were in the car waiting for me to get retested, the doctor called.
Her on this blood thinner, and that's common practice. They put you on a blood thinner because with COVID patients and stuff too, I think you can possibly get blood clots. Well, they didn't want to test her for blood clots because that's going to require them having to insert dye in her to test her for it, and with her already having chronic kidney disease, the dye is harsh on the kidneys. It was some type of inflammation or something he was saying, what they had her on for the blood thinner, so they switched her to something else, because what he was saying, like 5% of COVID patients, I guess, have a reaction to whatever this blood thinner they was, so he was taking precautions by switching her to something else. She did test positive for that, but that was just like a quick test, because they had to send away or whatever.
They said they get a lot of false positives with that test.
Right.
So.
But in the meantime, while they were waiting for the actual results to come back, he switched her to something else. But he was saying that pretty much he still was encouraging to me, I felt, because he was like, there was a little progress.
He kept saying that there were things that were reassuring.
Right.
Because he said at this point with her, basically his phone call was basically stating that they were at the point where they basically exhausted their options to treat this thing for her. And it was really down to whether she was going to make it or not.
And that's what he said.
So, but he said that there was a lot of things that were reassuring. And so we were just holding on to that. We were really, really holding on to that.
he was saying that despite all of this, there is a good chance she could get worse regardless of what they do.
So at this point, she wasn't even dealing with the virus itself. She was dealing with the after effects of the virus.
Right.
Like the pneumonia and the inflammation that it causes the body, and that's what she was fighting off. So that Saturday night, my mom and I, we prayed like we normally do. And this was about 12:50 or so. Sorry about our air fryer, y'all. About 12:50 or so, we were praying, and around 1:10, 1:16, my mom flew into my room, and she had the nurse on the phone, and they said they had to code my grandma.
They had to revive her.
Because they had lost her heart rate.
And they said it was really low. So while we were on the phone with them, she came back. So she asked me, what do you want me to do or whatever, because she was like, they may have to code her again. And I was like, you do whatever you have to do, save my mother. So we got off the phone, and I sat on Kyra's bed and we prayed. And I was like, she will live, she will not die. She will live, she will not die. I just kept saying that. Yeah, they called back again.
They said they had lost it again.
And they had lost her again and brought her back. And she was like, I don't know if she'll make it through it. And I said, she will.
Well, they said that they had lost her and that they were about to code her again, but they didn't know if she was going to make it through that.
Right, and I said she will. I was like, she will make it through. So I didn't hear anything from them. And at 1:37, they called, and I will never forget this phone call. And it was exactly a month ago today. They said, I'm sorry, she didn't make it. And that took everything out of me. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. And I just ended up telling the nurse, I gotta go. At that point, Kyra had left out of her room. She was angry.
Y'all, I promise
she was very angry.
All I could fix my face to do was scream. All I could do was scream because I didn't understand. It seemed like we were heading the right way, and then all of a sudden she just went. I guess we kind of should have known when he said Thursday that she wasn't producing a lot of urine, but I'm not a doctor, she's not a doctor. We don't know what that means. That basically was the telltale sign that her body was shutting down. They called, we freaked out. I freaked out. I screamed. I woke up my dad. My little brother came out his room, was like, what's going on? I just went into my grandma's room and I just laid on her floor and I just said, Grandma, why? Grandma, why? I'm pretty sure I had a panic attack. I hit my hand, I hurt my hand. We had to call the hospital back or whatever because they needed to know what to do. And of course my grandmother, she wanted to be cremated. So they let us all come up there, and y'all, that was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I had to stand there and look at my grandmother lifeless. And that is the last time that I physically saw her. And I didn't get to, I told her what I wanted her to know, but she couldn't hear me. She couldn't hear me. And a part of me was just hoping that, like, no, you don't want it to be somebody else, but I was just hoping, like, man, is it the wrong one? Like, did they just call the wrong person? But it wasn't. And I still, a month later, I still can't accept it. It's not, it doesn't feel right. It's not right to me. And we're going through a lot, but I really wanted to share this because this thing is serious. It's far from over. We're not the only family that has been through this. I wanted to make this and share this. I really was hoping I wasn't gonna cry, but it's hard. It's really hard. I wanted to share this because, please y'all, it's serious, and it may not mean anything to you because it hasn't hit home for you, but it's serious. Wear your mask, social distance, stay home if you can. It's serious, and it's extremely serious when you have pre-existing conditions. So even if you don't have pre-existing conditions, but somebody in your family does and they're elderly, do it for them. Just do it. Nobody, I really feel like we've been on silent lunch for like 5 months because it's just a couple people that just won't do what they're supposed to do. But it's serious, y'all. And my biggest reasoning for sharing this video was because I want to help somebody that may end up going through the same thing. My grandma's not the last person that this is going to happen to, or that maybe somebody has already went through this and they didn't really understand, you know, everything that they were told.
Yeah, we've learned a lot. Like, we've learned a lot doing research. We found out how COVID and diabetes just don't get along with each other. I'm
gonna link an article that we had.
And thousands of blood clots
at the end
in her body,
which ultimately led to multi-system organ failure.
Because it's some type, what is it called? The cytokine storm or
something? It was a cytokine storm.
Never knew anything about this. I've learned a lot.
That's in the article.
And like Howard said, it's very serious. Not we always had taken it serious, but when it hit home, it's a different feeling. It's really different once it hits home. My mother was everything to me, everything to her. We were like the Three Musketeers. So like, and the selfish part of me still want her here, you know. But I know that, you know, this is just temporary for us. This life here is temporary, but during the time, you are not thinking about that at all.
And the fact that it was just so sudden, and it was something that we feel could have been avoided. There was nothing more that we could have done for her. We've protected her from the beginning, but she had to go to work. She had to work. So, you know, I just really want everybody to take this as it's serious. You see two different completely sides of it from one family. She's gone, I'm here. It could have taken me out. Just because I'm healthy, that means nothing. You have no idea how it does your body until you have it. And even though, you know, I've tested negative now and I'm fine now, people have symptoms for months and months afterwards. I'm just blessed. Anyways, y'all, this is where I'm gonna end the video. Thanks, Mom, for being here. I know this was hard for you, but I really wanted you to be a part of it because at the end you were always her caretaker, but you were the one that was doing everything with this. I was just there for moral support. I didn't really do much.
I appreciate it because I've never had to go through anything like this before. No.
Yeah. So y'all, please keep our family in your thoughts and prayers. Do your part of wearing a mask. I don't care whatever conspiracy theory you may hear that the masks don't work. They work. 2 out of 5 people in this house got it. And me and her are glued to each other. And she still never got it. I'm getting the little antibody test so that I can donate because my grandma was selfless. And I know if she had beat it in this life, she would have donated her antibodies. And I just want to be able to help somebody else, you know, because it was a blessing that somebody was even available. Their plasma was even available to give my grandma a fighting chance. It's a process. Like, not everybody has the antibodies. Not everybody builds up antibodies to this thing, y'all. And if they do, they might last for a certain amount of time. And you have to match exactly with blood type and stuff. So it was just a blessing that she even got that. I'm gonna end this video here. Share this video, seriously, because it could help somebody. So share this video. Thanks for your continued support, continued prayers, thoughts, all that stuff. Thanks, and until my next video, bye.
I said it's good. It's a jump.